Hello, everyone, and welcome to a little bit of woo woo. My name is Jill Thomas. I'm your host. And thanks so much for all the feedback I got on the last 2024 predictions video I did. I thought I would give some more. Also, I think I might do this on a regular basis because what I do is I actually connect with clients' spirit guides and get information from higher level beings on the other side. So a lot of times they give me information that's helpful for everyone. So I think I'll try and do this on a more regular basis and give you guys information from what I'm getting from client readings. So first thing I want to talk about a little bit, I mentioned this in the last video, and this video is recording on February 1st at Pacific time, 1 o'clock p.m. Pacific time on February 1st, 2024. That's always important to say in case something happens between now and when I post this. But I want to talk a little bit about hacking incidents. Now, I mentioned that last time. I think there's going to be a lot more of them. What I was seeing, what the guides were showing me, is that people in general need to be much more careful about what they click on, what their emails, particularly their emails. Now, we all know not to click on attachments, but these hackers have learned to make these things a lot more sophisticated, as we've been seeing, because a lot of big organizations that you never would have thought of getting major hacks got hacks because somebody got sent an email and clicked on it. So just be a lot more careful what you click on. And just I tend to just assume everybody is trying to steal something from me and don't click on their emails unless I know for sure it's from them. The other thing I would recommend, the guides were showing me that would be helpful, is if you have an old laptop, everybody does, right? Stick it in a closet that's not connected to the internet anymore. Maybe some of the important files that you don't want anything to happen to, stick those on that. Just stick them on a zip drive and move it into the other computer. That's always helpful. I wouldn't be afraid of this, but I would just say be aware and just understand that these organizations are getting more and more sophisticated on how they're doing it. And that they're not generally going after individuals. They're going after your banking company, the whole bank, not just your individual account. So just be aware of that and pay more attention. Speaking of banking, I was seeing the day that I'm recording this, yesterday we had a big bank go down. I think we're going to be seeing more of that. And what I was seeing, what my spirit guides were showing me, is that a lot of times they're going to they'll see one getting in the news and then they'll sneak in another one. Oh, another bank over here is going. So that their bank going under doesn't become the big headline, because the last thing they want is for all of their stock to go down. But what if like 3 banks go down at the same time? Are we all going to be focusing on one particular bank? I would just say that there's going to be more of that. One thing that the guys were showing me is because clients are asking me a lot about layoffs. I'm seeing a lot more of that happening in the first quarter of 2024 than we have been seeing. It's been going on this whole time, but they've been kind of hiding it by strips and drabs at different little companies. But I've been seeing a lot of it happening. And I will say that even if it's not you that gets laid off, it's traumatizing watching coworkers leaving in boxes. The other thing I was seeing, companies are going to be a little bit more sneaky about how they try to do it. So there will be what I kind of jokingly call firing by show up in person, have to come in person again. So that's going to be one way they'll fire people, is saying, if you don't show up for your in-person sessions anymore, then you're not going to work here anymore. And that's a way that they can get rid of people without having to pay severance and all that other nasty stuff. So you'll be forced to quit because you moved to another state and now you're supposed to be in the office, even after being told you don't need to. So just be aware, companies are going to get more sneaky in how they try to get rid of people that they don't necessarily want to pay anymore. Just something to be aware of. I don't know that you need me to tell you that, but I'm going to say that this is going to be at a whole new level in 2024 because companies are kind of communicating back and forth as to how can we get rid of employees without having to pay all that stuff, and seeing what tactics work and seeing what tactics don't work. So just be aware that they're kind of working together in some ways. Politics. People were asking me a lot about the election. And like I've said, I don't really know who's going to be president, but what I have gotten many times from the spirit guides is that it doesn't matter as much the president as it will the governor. So what's been going on, and you guys have seen at the time of this recording, there's some conflicts in Texas over border security. I think there's going to be a lot more of those types of conflicts as states want to take dominion over their land. I see a lot of governors wanting to take more control than they have in the past. And I think that's going to be tolerated more. So individually as voters, I would suggest, yes, vote, please. I will do that. But I wouldn't be as much concerned about who's going to be president as who's going to be governor in your state, because that will actually impact your life more than who's in charge of the whole country, because I'm not sure that person's going to impact your day to day as much as you might think, or as much as they have been in the past. I do think the governor issue will be much bigger. I also see, back to the immigration issue, I do see that becoming a really big part of the election. You don't need me to tell you that, but I think there's going to be a lot more conflict around that, as the individual states are upset about homelessness, and they're upset about immigration. They're upset about a lot of things that they don't feel like they have control over, but yet their individual local governments are being impacted by. There will be a lot more conflicts about that. I wouldn't be terribly surprised if you start to hear more people, more states talking about secession. Now, I'm not saying they're going to do it, but I'm saying I think we're going to start to, towards the end of 2020, I think we're going to start to hear about that more in the news. We've already seen this. A couple of states have tried to split in half. It's been on the ballot like 3 or 4 times, even when I was living there. So I think we're going to see that. Even Oregon tried to do the same thing, tried to cut in half. I think we'll be seeing more states where that's going to start to happen in the coming years. I don't know if it is going to be as much this year as it will be in the future, but I'm absolutely seeing that be a thing, as more conservatives and more liberals, who generally don't necessarily live together, are going to start to separate out, because each group won't feel as represented. So a lot of people right now are asking about travel, because they're starting to book their travel plans for the summer. And I'm getting a lot of questions about air traffic and planes, and all of the things that are so annoying, right? I don't necessarily see that being worse than normal. I wouldn't say that it's going to be easier either. I will say there's a lot less people going to be traveling this year than traveled last year. That whole revenge travel thing, which made no sense, that the title was just bizarre to me. But I don't think we're going to be seeing that as much. I do think there's just going to be less travel in general. And I think it's going to be probably the usual level of unpleasant that we're all used to, delays, canceled planes, missed connections. I don't think it's going to be worse than normal, if that makes sense. I wouldn't feel uncomfortable about scheduling travel plans involving a plane. I don't think there's anything to be worried about. One of the things the guides did show me that this was going to be a hot summer, is what I was seeing. That how that's going to be impacted is that there will be more electrical events, like electricity being out, and electricity being out in places at a time when it's really, really hot. So I'm seeing people getting in their cars, driving places, just trying to get air conditioning, driving around in their cars. I actually don't see fuel as being that expensive this summer. I think that's going to be actually fairly inexpensive comparatively to what it had been. We had a few years where it was just really stupid expensive to put gas in your car. It's not great now, but I don't think it will be as bad as it has been in the past. The other thing I was seeing a lot of, and this is something I'm seeing in the first quarter of 2024, and you guys, as clients have already reported this to me a lot, there's going to be a lot more personal disclosure events. I mentioned this a little bit in the show we recorded with Mara earlier today. I actually recorded it earlier today. A lot of people finding out things that they didn't know, like medical tests coming back and seeing that maybe they were on the wrong medication for a while. I don't know if you guys can hear this. My cat is scratching the door. She would like a snack. We'll talk about that later, kitty. A lot more personal disclosure. I see a lot of grieving around that, not necessarily because somebody's dying. I mean, that happens. That's not necessarily what I'm seeing. I'm seeing grieving around, I thought it was this way and it turned out to be something else. I thought this was which way it was going and it's turning out to be a different direction. I'm also seeing a lot of business owners having a lot of grief over their business. Particularly in the first quarter of the year, and this would be exactly true for most people, is when you're looking at how much your expenses were last year and you realize as a business owner, you didn't make as much money as you thought, or you didn't make as much money as the year before. I'm seeing a lot of personal grieving over that, and just allowing yourself to have that space to do that grieving, but looking at what happened and then setting a new course, changing direction, shifting your marketing, shifting where you're putting your money. This may be where some of this layoffs come off. Some businesses are going to have to thin the herd a little bit in order to save the entire business. And as a business owner myself, I, have a lot of respect for that. So just be aware of that. So is it going to be you that gets laid off? It doesn't matter. It's still going to be traumatizing no matter what happens there. But I will say, as I mentioned in the earlier video, the people that are more likely to get laid off are the ones that are very rigid and who are not willing to work within the system. I will say that the employees that are going to be doing fine are the ones that they don't mind doing 4 jobs. I mean, because that will be what is being requested. You'll see a lot of companies laying off your 3 coworkers and then you're expected to do all 4 jobs. So just there will be more of that. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying that's what's happening. So just keep it in mind, okay? Conflict events. There is going to be more conflict events in the world. What the guys were showing to me with these conflict events is that we'd be seeing like a lot of blowy uppy things. Forgive my use of those highly clinical terms, blowy uppy things, and then calm for a little while, and then more blowy uppy things. So there will be more of that happening, is what I'm seeing, unfortunately. But it will be what the reason it's important to know this is I feel what will happen is you'll see it and you'll think, oh, it's over. You know, it's this happened. We've got some calm, but it's just like the calm before the storm. It's like the eye of the storm is what I'm seeing. So just be aware that there will be more off and on with these conflict events, and there will be a lot more protests happening in individual cities and particularly in the big cities where there's a clash of ideas. So I hope this was helpful. If you have anything you personally would like to know about, don't ask me about you personally. You know, what am I going to lose my job? Don't put that in the description because the answer to that wouldn't necessarily be interesting to the whole crowd. But if you have a more general question, maybe I'll answer that within the next time I do this video. So hope it was helpful. And like I said, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments, and maybe I'll address it next time. I would love it if you liked and subscribed this. It would really be nice. Thank you so much. Anyway, hope it was helpful, and I'll see you next time. Bye.